Hey everybody, this is Davis with Con Freaks and Geeks, and I would like to welcome you to another episode of Pop Culture Gems. This is a series where we talk to amazing creators, artists, cosplayers, voice actors, and so much more. If you like the interviews we do with our amazing guests, give us a thumbs up or subscribe to our YouTube channel, the CFG channel, or you can listen to it on any podcast services out there like Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or so much more. We're all over the place. And or if you just want to check out all the fantastic geeky content in one area, just go to our main website, confreaksandgeeks.com, for the whole package. Today, I am speaking with an incredibly creative person. He voice acts, he directs, he writes, he publishes, he does a ton of different creative things. He recently has been announced to be one of the voices of Rindo in the upcoming Square Enix game Neo, The World Ends With You. I would like to welcome Paul Castro Jr. to the show. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on. This is it's a real pleasure, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
Oh yeah, it's great. It's great. After like it was funny because my what was it my editor? My editor was playing the demo of The World's End With You, and then he was like, "Hey, the voice actor came to my chat." It's like, "Oh, that's awesome!" It's like I was they're like, "See if we can talk to him. I would love to talk to him." It's like, okay,
Yeah, that
cool.
was I've been doing that. It's honestly I love the community and the fandom, and I was like, how funny and fun would it be to stop by people's streams who are playing the demo, have no idea who I am, and then it's
Mhm.
so funny because at the end of the demo there's a credit slide and it says like it's the trailer where it has all the voice actor names. So many times I'd hop in and people would be like, "Oh, this hey Paul, how's it going? Welcome. How are you doing?" I'm like, how you enjoying the game? Do you like it? Who's your favorite character? And then they'll beat it, and then they'll get to the credits, and they'll go, "Wait a second, is that guy in my stream right now?" And then you just see their faces just glow up. It's priceless. I love it. It makes me so
It-
happy.
it's like a cruel joke, but it's not really cruel, but it's just hilarious when you come to the realization of it. It's like, oh wow, this person was a part of it. He knows
Yeah.
it. That's awesome. Well, thank you for stopping by. I would love to chat everything geeky with you. So, but let's get into it, man. So like you yourself, like I've been looking into it, and you are just a man of many hats. Like you're an actor, director, voice actor. I mean, the list literally can go on what you what you contribute in. And but out of all of that, like with on the back end stuff, like what got you into the world of voice acting?
Well, it definitely all started with like an insane passion for video games and anime. Before I even wanted to be an actor, that was basically my daily life consumption. I was watching, Toonami, Adult Swim. I guess it was Toonami at the time,
Mhm.
and cartoons. X-Men the animated series, and
Mhm.
playing every RPG, JRPG that you can imagine. I mean, the amount of times I've played Final Fantasy VII or Suikoden's or the Tale series, Legend of Mana, all that stuff. That was basically how I was doing. I was sitting in my room playing video games, and when I was in college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And the long story short of it is, I somehow found myself in an acting class. And I was like, oh, wow, this is really fun. I would love to. And I told the teacher, I was like, I really would like to be like on Dragon Ball Z or something. I was like, how do I do that? And then they were like, well, if you want to become a voice actor, first you have to learn how to act. And I've said this pretty much in every interview, but it's the words that really stick to me and I preach to everybody who's interested in pursuing voice acting is you got to learn how to act. You got to study the craft. You have to really train yourself, not just in doing impressions and, Super Saiyan screams. You got to know how to connect and get into a character's skin and understand their emotional ticks and their core. So
Mhm.
I wound up studying acting, fell in love with theater, TV, and film. And then while doing all those things, when I moved to New York City, my commercial agent was sending me out for like promos and commercials and stuff because commercial cat agents, when you have a youth agent, they'll send you out for
Mhm.
everything. It's basically like throwing darts at a board and waiting for some kid, who's just says sprinkles the right way or Cocoa Puffs the right way, gets the job. But I was booking a lot of these voiceover things because obviously I have a very youthful sound and I was training as an actor. I wasn't just like a pretty face, as they say. I was,
Mm.
I knew what I was doing and I was older, but I was auditioning for things that were younger, and I loved animation and cartoons and all that stuff. So I was even doing that stuff at that time. But the main thing I was doing was like promos for Nickelodeon. So all the stuff that's like coming on next is SpongeBob. Stay tuned for these wacky cartoons, blah 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 blah. So I was doing that for years and years and years, and that was kind of the entry point into voiceover for me. And then obviously I got into doing more cartoons, animation, and video games.
Well, so it seems like you kind of want, like, you initially wanted to voice act, but like, but then at the same time, you just kind of, because I mean, you've done other projects. Like I've seen your,
Yeah,
like, I mean, uh, your list of stuff. I'm just like, wow. I mean, you've just done things that was beyond just like being the stereotypical voice actor per se. Let's just say that, not in a bad way, but
yeah,
but it's like, wow, it's like you're directing, you wrote your own, like, you basically wrote a series, which I
yeah.
also want to get into that because I want to get some more information on that. But
Sure.
like, man, it's just like, it just, so like, so when you basically got that bug was basically in college when you were saying like, where you say where they told you you had to learn how to act before you could do anything, and then you just
Yeah.
opened up on creativity. Is that what happened or what?
Yeah, I mean, I was so blind and oblivious to how when I was a kid, I didn't know you could become an actor. I didn't think that was a job that you could do. I thought that actors were selected by like these, gatekeepers who were like, "You, Johnny Depp, come with me. You're gonna become, whoever it was." I didn't think that you could apply to do that stuff because I grew up in a small town in Jersey, and you never saw film sets. You didn't know voice actors. Like, it just wasn't people. I didn't know anybody who was in the entertainment business.
Mhm.
So eventually I was, I caught the bug acting, and I always knew in the back of my head that I would love to come back to voiceover, but it took a lot of hard work, and it took a lot of deconstructing all of what I thought was acting, because you start out and you have a desire to show all your skills in a way, and really like
Mhm.
capital A act is what they say, where you're like, Maria, what are you doing? Like that type of big capital A
Yeah,
acting. And then you deconstruct that, and college was really great for that. I went to a couple of different colleges, but I really credit going to the Meisner Conservatory at NYU for uh, getting me like stripping all of what I thought I was supposed to do away, and actually just being a human being that listens and responds.
that's awesome. That's really awesome. And
Yeah.
like I said earlier, though, I mean, like, there is a series that I've been waiting to hear about more about for a while, because I've heard about it, like, back in 2019 or so, 2018, 2019. But
Yeah.
it's probably because of the past year that we've had for the obviously obvious issues, and that there's a wrench into some things. But I want to know about the Game Factory, the series that you made,
Yeah.
and when I heard about this, like, when I heard about it, I was sold. I was like, I need to know more about this, but haven't heard anything since. Is there
I
any
know.
updates on what's going on with it?
Well, so, like you said, this was my passion project. I've been working on this for so long with my partner and I and one of my good buddies, and a couple of my good buddies, quite frankly. This has been taking a village to create. We shot a pilot in Atlantic City for a good chunk of change. We had a really good creative team. We had Jake Choi, who's on ABC Single Parents. We had
Mhm.
Frank Deal, who was in Manifest, which was on NBC. Now it's on
Oh
Netflix.
wow.
David Risdall, Brock Urich, who was on The Have and the Have Nots. Like, our cast was pretty stacked, and who I was able to get to come and do this. People who were um, like rising stars at the time, who are now just kicking butt.
Hmm.
Um, but so we had got acquired by a content studio, which was awesome. We went to a festival called ITV Fest, which is now called Catalyst, which is run by HBO and the Academy Awards.
Hmm.
And we did it like an official selection premiering there, and we eventually got hooked up with this content studio. And in the shopping phase, we weren't necessarily content on the direction that it was going to go, because there's a lot of
Hmm.
ways. It's extremely hard to get a series made. It's
Oh yeah.
extremely hard to get your content picked up by a streaming service, and even the making the pilot was a challenge in general. But we eventually wind up taking our rights back, working with another streaming platform, and we were so excited. We were coming out to LA. We were getting ready to do all this stuff to make it happen. And then the pandemic hit and it
Mm,
basically put the roadblock in front of us of saying, do we want to wait this out and continue to do what we're going here? Or do we want to re-enter into the pitching phase and do it with a fresh approach, which is what we did. So
mhm,
we reinvented the idea into a short form series as well as the half hour comedy series. So when we were pitching it to the streaming platforms and to like the new production companies like Red Bull, you know, all these different companies that have their own production companies that aren't
mhm,
just doing like a product. They're also entering into the filming world and the entertainment world, making various different forms of media. So we've been, as we speak right now, repitching this with a fresh new approach, and we have a lot of interest. But it's definitely been a slower process because not a lot of people are looking to take on new content
right.
that isn't already baked within the company itself. So if it's not Netflix having sought out a showrunner or sought out an idea themselves and approaching creators, it's much harder for you to take your idea and say, hey, would you like to make this? Because then as a creator, you have all these people who are attached to this project. And
Mhm,
that can sometimes make it a harder process for a production company or a streaming service to then have control over, so to
mhm,
speak. But we're figuring it out. We're very open. We're very flexible. It's for those of you who don't know,
mhm,
it's a sitcom style, single camera comedy about a group of gamers who hang out at this store called the Game Factory, and it's all about the quirks and the relationships and the conflicts that happen when hanging out with all your friends who basically just want to play video games all day. So, you know, we got an episode about like our characters getting obsessed with World of Warcraft, you know, Gamers Anonymous type of situation. We have an episode that's inspired by like Pokemon Go, you know, going around on your phone and catching various different monsters.
mhm,
It's a really funny gamer uh it's a show made by gamers for gamers in a way. I had been looking for a series that was really going to hit the nail on the head in terms of what it means to be a gamer and like all the comedy that goes along with it. I grew up in a game store and there were
mhm.
so many characters, you know, from the guy who owns the place to the dude who's getting, you know, dropped off by his brother's girlfriend. Like it was just such a very interesting, unique experience and all the different styles of games between card games, comics, FPS, MMO, MOBA. It's like we try to cover everything.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's sad to see it. I mean, because of the pandemic, is to see it halt. But definitely, I guess the biggest thing is that the biggest end goal is you're wanting to have your vision the way you're wanting to interpret it to be. You know, so I'm really glad you got the rights back and stuff
Yeah.
to get it back to where what you're wanting it to become again. So hopefully, we'll hopefully get just cross our fingers to see see if we're going to see this here in the future. You know.
One way or another, we're going to get this out, and that was most important to us is we didn't want to sell out, so to speak, and have our idea diluted to something that
Hmm.
is marketed towards a specific audience because what we made is what we want to make, and definitely certain companies have a certain age demographic or genre of audience that they try to appeal to, and we wanted
Hmm.
this to be what we wanted to make because if we tarnish the idea, then or if we compromise on that, we know that that's either a slippery slope in terms of compromising, or we're
Hmm.
not setting out to make what we wanted to, and I don't think that that'll be that great if we did
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially with like what you're saying. Especially with if it's a gamer by gamers for gamers, people will be really picky on on
Oh yeah.
expecting it to be a certain way. So definitely understand that. And like as you just said too, like about the game factory, you would consider yourself to be a gamer or big in gaming culture itself, like anime, gaming, and all that stuff.
My whole life. I mean, it's when I'm not sitting and when I'm not working, doing auditions or jobs, I'm home playing video games between, you know, when I was playing Dota to Overwatch to Final Fantasy 14, just Call of Duty, or RPGs, action adventure games. Like I'm all over just constantly or watching anime. I sit and watch pretty anime pretty much every night. So it's that's, you know, it's a blessing that my 2 jobs or 2 interests, the paths intertwined, and I get to, like, do stuff for that.
Well, I mean, and like I said, you're the main dude in Neo. The world ends with you. Like, is this your first? Is this would that? Would you say that's the first big break in voicing in gaming, or have you been doing other? Have you done other things
I've done other things, and
itself?
there's a couple of projects that are coming out,
I know
in
that you
terms
could
of
discuss.
yeah, yeah, not that I can talk about yet. There's definitely a couple of cool things coming up, but in terms of a big studio video game lead character, this was
hmm
definitely the most monumental in that sense. And it was an extreme surprise and a delight to find out that I was doing it.
Yeah, I swear to God, though, if you are like character in Final Fantasy VII, you don't come back on here to talk about it, I'll be pissed.
I promise you now, if that does come to fruition, you will be the first person I reach out to.
There you go. Okay, you heard it here first. There you go. But I mean, like, what kind of RPGs were you into? Like you said, JRPGs. Like, what kind of JRPGs did you like to play?
Oh gosh, I mean, everything from the PlayStation to PS2 was like my bread and butter. It was
Mhm.
like my favorite game series of all time is Suikoden. 1,
Wow.
2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, I have like an entire manga. I have every single manga of it. I have the Japanese games. I've got all of the regular games. I've got the Japanese import card stories. Like that was my game. Like I have a tattoo on my back of the True Beast rune. So like I go
Oh
deep on
my
that series.
God. I have never
Um,
seen a hardcore Suikoden fan like that. That's pretty
yeah.
tight.
That was, like, my life, but I was also playing, like, Legend of Dragoon, Breath of
mm,
Fire,
mm,
the Mana series,
mm.
Legend of Legaia, Lunar Silver Star Story, Star Ocean 2, all of
Golly.
those PlayStation really dope JRPGs, Chrono
Mhm.
Cross, Chrono Trigger, that was I mean, Final Fantasy, every Final Fantasy I've
Obviously,
played
yeah.
and beaten, that's a given. But, that yeah, any of those, like, really, dope PS2, PlayStation JRPGs,
Mhm.
I've probably played them and
Yeah.
probably completed.
PlayStation and PS2 was like the golden age of RPGs.
It
Definitely, I will say that.
was.
Especially well, Suikoden. I'm surprised because, like, I mean, Suikoden 2, I think it's still one of the rarest games out there to find, like, for
Yeah,
RPG wise. I mean, it's like a $200 game, but like
it
even for its
is.
time, it's ridiculous. But no,
Mine's in a
that's
case.
it's just right there for the taking to watch and stuff. And being like a director, a director and a creator, are there any like games or something else that inspires you to create, some of the shows or the short films that you've made?
I definitely say the most inspiration I get is from real life experience, things that I've gone through. Like I made a short film about one of my cats that passed away, and we worked with like one of the largest feline health research foundations in the world, and we worked with a nonprofit that Seth MacFarlane made in honor of his mother, Perry's Place Heaven on Earth. So in terms of like the things that I'm writing or creating, it's all based off of my life, and I have a bunch of screenplays that I've written, some that have won awards. I have a screenplay called Barbie Boy, which is very much inspired by my life growing up in New Jersey. I have an animated series that's about Halloween because I'm obsessed with Halloween and like scary movies and stuff that we're pitching right now too. But in terms of video games, I really believe that the stories and the characters in a lot of these RPGs that I've played have influenced me into like the hero's journey because I always saw myself like as Ryu and Suikoden or Cloud. I saw myself wanting to like be not necessarily the most interesting person or the person who's right for the job, like you're not your stereotypical hero, but put in a position where this person has to make a decision to do the right thing and help people out in a scenario that might be scary for them. So that definitely influences all of my writing and the type of stuff that I want to work on as a director or producer.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Definitely like that. And I mean, I would be crazy like not to ask anything about Neo the world ends with you. But could you tell us, like, I never played the first one because I know the first one was originally that came out on the handheld. I think it was on 3DS first.
Mhm.
and then they remade it and brought it on the on consoles itself. But
Yeah.
could you tell us a little more about, like, the story? Like, I mean, without ruining it, obviously, but the with your character, and like what the story is and what takes place.
Well, the most that I can say is that there's definitely, very similar to the first game, there are these characters that are in Shibuya, Japan, and they are thrust into this world, known as the UG, which is the underground, and it's a game called the Reaper's Game. And you find out that there is this scenario where these people have X amount of time or X amount of days to beat this Reaper's Game or face erasure, which could be interpreted as many different things. And the best thing I would say for somebody who's never seen or never played the first game is there's an animation out right now that Funimation did. It's the World Ends with You whole first game animated, and it's a great like crash course into what the World Ends with You is like, and it pretty much covers the entirety of what the first game is. So
Mhm.
I think the way that Nomura had described it, I could be wrong, do not quote me here, is that
Mhm.
the animation was like created in with the intention to be like the entry for playing Neo The World Ends with You.
Oh, okay. I see. So is Neo a direct sequel of what the original one was, or is this like a totally different scenario of what of, like, do you like have to play the first one to play the second one, or the new one, or is this something that's like a standalone that you could go, kind of like how Final Fantasies or don't connect to each
Yeah,
other?
well, it definitely exists in the same kind of parameters that the first game did, so whether you
Hmm.
have to play the first one or not, I think is up to interpretation.
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of games that give you kind of, insight into what happened in the first game, and I believe there are gonna be scenarios that happen like that in this game, but, I'm sure you could enjoy this if you've never played the first game, but my recommendation would be is if you're not gonna play it, watch the animation because then you'll have that kind of
Very true.
you'll know who the some of the characters are because there's characters who return. You'll know what like some of the terms are. I think that would be the best way to enjoy Neo.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And like, I mean, have you like your what's it called, your character, so, excuse me, you're the main character itself, though, like the whole process, because I did see you play the other day on your friend's Twitch. That was also one of the side character, one of the characters that played with you, I believe it was last week, itself, though, because like I was kind of it was kind of hard on trying to, well, for me, because I'm like, I have no idea what's going on when I looked at it,
Ah,
but I just loved how it looks. It kind of reminds me of the art from Kingdom Hearts a little bit.
mm,
But it looked incredibly interesting. And then like I said, my editor was playing it too. Like,
yeah.
what was one of the like what was one of like was there anything like the craziest, like what was one of the craziest things that you experienced when you were when you were playing your character during that set?
Gosh, I mean, I just started tearing up. I was crying. I was so overcome with emotion because Square itself as a company has been so instrumental on who I am as a person, and it was a little bit of like a babysitter for me. I was playing all these Final Fantasy games. So finally seeing my character like in the game and hearing the voice lines, it kind of hit me like, wow, I'm self-actualizing my childhood dreams in a way. And I get kind of emotional now just thinking about it because I'm truly, truly blessed. And just playing the demo, it was at every moment, it was just surreal. Like I put that performance in there. So when I would hear other people do voice acting as a kid in certain games, and I remember specifically playing Final Fantasy X and James Arnold Taylor's performance as Tidus. Like I was so like, oh my gosh, like I'm so invested in this character, and there's such joy and exuberance in his performance that I really fell in love with it. Flash forward years down the line, James is actually the person who introduced me to my agent, which was a whole crazy scenario within itself. But being a part of a for what is for most people a dream come true to see this series come back after 14 years. I felt an immense responsibility, and I'm just so excited to be a part of this game.
That's awesome. And man, that must be really surreal, especially like you were saying, like hardcore RPG fan playing
Yeah.
Square, growing up with Square forever, and then now you're in a Square game with the person with one of the people that you grew up with, and it's like,
Yeah.
oh wow, that's freaking awesome. And this is your well, technically, like so far right now, this is your first official video game credit for voice acting itself. But I
Hmm.
know you did some voices in anime series already. But if it was up to you, which kind of roles would you do you prefer more, anime or gaming?
Hmm. Well, there's definitely more video game stuff coming out, so I could promise you that. Uh, so I could definitely promise you that. And in terms of what I would want to do more if I had my pick, it really depends because I think if you get it all depends on the character and the story, and it could happen in either medium. You're dep For most Japanese video games, JRPGs, you're dubbing the same way you would dub an anime. You're matching either a lip flap or you're matching a performance or you're matching an intonation or an objective that the performer in Japan had
Hmm.
done. So
Hmm.
I really think that obviously games are a longer process and you really get to like get the meat and potatoes as they say of the
Hmm.
character, figure out the character, go on that really long journey. So I really like that experience, and then you can kind of like, you work on it for a few weeks or a few months and then you're done. Some animes can go on for seasons for 10 to 15 years. So
Yeah.
I think working on a long series like that would be really awesome, like a One Piece or a Naruto or a
Hmm.
Bleach. Like that would be really cool too. But it's got to be a good story. It's got to be a good character.
Oh man, like, One Piece is like, it's scary to think that One Piece is still going, because when you think about it this way, the way I look at it is that One Piece started 2 years after Final Fantasy VII first came out.
I know,
It's like,
and they're going
that
strong.
it's still hitting over 1,000 episodes. I can't even imagine staying in the series for that long. That is incredible
I
itself. So
know. It's crazy. I think that you and to stay what the crazy part about a lot of this stuff
mhm,
is characters oftentimes don't really age that much. Yet
right.
you as a performer, over 15 years, a lot of things can change within your voice or who you are as a person. You're maturing, you have, a
Hmm.
different sensibility. So to like still capture that same essence of a character over that long a period of time, these performers don't get enough credit
That
for
is
the
a
great job they
great
do.
point. You are totally right, because I felt the same way, kind of with Kingdom Hearts, because Sora was is that Haley Joel Osment was
Yep.
Sora, the initial one, and he was still then like the problem was the break between 2 to 3 was
Yeah.
literally almost 20 years, and it's like you got Haley Joel Osment when he was what 15 at the time when he
Yeah,
first
yeah.
did it, and now he's 30 something doing the same
Yep.
thing, trying to get that same role. Oh my god, I didn't even think about that. You're totally right.
And he does
Oh
a
boy.
great job at exactly
Oh
doing
yeah.
that. The Sora's energy, obviously, he didn't age as much as Haley did, but I when I played Kingdom Hearts 3, I just felt like, "Oh, yep, that's Sora. That's Sora just a little older," you know?
Yeah. It's like, oh no, he didn't like drop an octave or
Yeah, yeah,
anything.
yeah, that too. That's yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh, he's not having any of that stubble over his chin still, but still, it's pretty
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
pretty
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Oh my god. All right. Is there any differences in gaming gigs from doing anime or animation itself? I guess you kind of did point that out when you're saying, like, calming you have to go by, the lips, and then also
Yeah.
kind of going by the Japanese dub and stuff. But other than like something like that, like, is there any more difficulties than that you also have to kind of put into occurrence?
Well, I think too that if you're not doing a Japanese video game and you're doing like just an original video game, there's probably a lot more freedom because you can originate your performance. You don't have to base it off of anything, and also there's a lot of animation or shows you would see on like American television, like the Nickelodeon shows, the Fox shows, the Hulu, the Netflix things. Like when you get an original character like that, that's also a time where you can originate your performance more often than not. But I think between anime and video games by and large require a lot of efforts and screams and like combat stuff because oftentimes there's fighting in the video game, so you have to give a wide variety of intensities, whether that's like you got stabbed in the stomach with a knife, you got stabbed by a sword, you got clobbered by a mallet, you're getting choked to death. So all these varying different scenarios of death or pain require a different muscle and understanding and skill set. Where anime, oftentimes it's a bit more narrative in nature. You're not doing like a long library of that stuff. So you're just going with the story. There might be a moment of screaming, but you're not going to spend, 4 hours of a day doing that. So, which I've done before, and it's intense. Not to say there's not moments in anime where you're going as we've seen from people like Sean Schemmel who have passed out doing it. So I think other than that though, um, I like both mediums. I think that we've seen such variety in both video games and anime. You can see there's some anime that are very kind of serious and like a darker tone, but there's also comedic ones. And the same for video games. I think a lot of video games that are really good find moments to find comedy or levity, and I like when you have real humans who aren't just like one way. They're not just
Yeah.
one dimensional. So
Oh, okay. That's very well put. That's very well
yeah.
said there. Well, that is great. Paul, thank you so much for talking to me, geeking out with me a little bit on this. Is there, yeah, is there anything you'd like to plug yourself on here?
Go buy Neil, The World Ends With You, coming out on July 27th.
Oh, there you go.
You can follow me on all social medias. It's at Paul Castro Jr. I have a Discord too, which is I'm pretty active in, and I really try to connect with my audience as much as possible. And from there, I also stream on Twitch. And I don't know when this is coming out, but I've been doing hangouts on Twitch with all of the other cast members of the game. So I just interviewed Andy Hirsch, who plays Sho Minamimoto in The World Ends With You, which was really fun. And I've got the rest of the cast coming up. Griffin Burns is going to be coming on. He plays Fret in Neo, who also plays Child in Genshin Impact, and pretty much every other anime you can imagine he's touched, and some of the other cast members too. So check those out. Yeah, in terms of other games and anime and stuff, it's all NDA'd, so you'll just have to stick around and wait.
Yes, definitely, guys. You need to definitely keep track with Paul Castro Jr. He's doing some awesome things and stuff in the near future. But thank you so much for being on the show today, guys. Thank you. If you like this interview, you can also check out all our other interviews on Spotify anytime on Con Freaks and Geeks. Con Freaks and Geeks website, confreaksandgeeks.com. Man, I'm getting tongue tied. I don't know why. But guys,
11 benevolent elements.
Yeah, it's like mumble rapping. But this is David signing off from Pop Culture Gems. Y'all take it easy.
Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Awesome.